Jack's heart was still racing as he looked at her. The alien woman, his warrior, his memory, stood before him, more real than ever. The forest seemed to fade away, and all that mattered was that she was here, back in front of him. You're really here?" Jack asked, his voice thick with disbelief. The alien woman, her armor scratched and damaged from the crash, took a step closer. Her blue eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made him feel like the entire universe was staring at him. Her name was Lyra, and she had left Earth all those years ago, taking a piece of Jack's heart with her. "I never stopped thinking about you, Jack," Lyra said softly, her voice steady despite the weariness in her eyes. "Not for a moment. Every day, I wondered if you were still out here, waiting, just like I was." Jack shook his head, trying to grasp the reality of it all. "But why did you leave? Why didn't you stay? I never understood." Lyra's expression softened, the weight of the past settling on her shoulders. She looked down for a moment, gathering her thoughts, then met his gaze again. "My people, they don't allow us to form bonds with humans. They see us as warriors, not as lovers." She paused, her eyes flickering with sadness. "I was ordered to leave. I was torn between duty and my heart. I chose duty, but I never forgot you." Jack felt a pang of pain in his chest. It was the same feeling he'd had when she left all those years ago. The promise they'd shared, the connection they'd built, all seemed to be broken by her sudden departure. But here she was, standing before him, and somehow it didn't seem real. "You broke my heart when you left, Lyra," Jack admitted, his voice softening. "I didn't know why you had to go. It felt like I'd lost a part of myself." She stepped forward, closing the space between them, and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "I'm sorry, Jack. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought it was the only way. The only way to protect us both." Jack looked at her, his mind racing. This was the woman he had loved, the woman who had made him feel like he could do anything. But now, after all these years, would it be the same? "You're here now," Jack said, his voice filled with hope. "And I want to understand. I want to know everything." Lyra nodded, her expression softening. "There's so much I need to explain. But first, I need your help. My people, my planet, they'll come looking for me. And when they do, we'll have to face the consequences." Jack's heart sank. He had known this day might come, but hearing it out loud made it real. The danger was back, and now they both had to deal with the consequences of her return. But for Jack, one thing was clear. He wasn't going to let her go again, no matter what. Jack had been living a quiet life since the day she left. The memories of her, those bright, golden eyes, her strong, yet gentle presence, haunted him. It had been years since that strange encounter, and every day without her felt like a missed opportunity. He tried to move on, to forget. But how do you forget a woman who wasn't even from his world? A woman who was a warrior, an alien from a far-off planet. It was a chilly afternoon when Jack was working in his small workshop, tinkering with an old, unused radio. The world around him was quiet, with only the sound of birds chirping outside and the occasional hum of his tools. But then suddenly the radio crackled to life, its screen blinking with strange symbols. It was like a message, a sign. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He stared at the device for a moment, unsure whether to ignore it or to investigate. But he knew he couldn't ignore it. Something deep inside urged him to check it out, as though the universe itself was telling him something. He wiped his hands on his work shirt and moved toward the radio, his mind racing. As soon as he pressed a button, a strange map appeared on the screen, showing coordinates near the edge of the forest. Jack's eyes widened. He knew that place well. It was just beyond his property line. But what could it mean? His thoughts were interrupted by a loud noise coming from outside, the sound of something large crashing into the trees. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Could she be back? Jack grabbed his jacket and rushed outside, his legs moving faster than his mind could keep up. The wind hit his face, making him shiver as he sprinted toward the source of the sound. The forest was thick, and it wasn't easy to navigate, but Jack knew these woods better than anyone. When he reached the clearing, he saw it, something incredible. A ship, a sleek alien vessel, lay half buried in the dirt. Smoke rose from the twisted wreckage, and the air was filled with the smell of burnt metal. But what caught Jack's attention wasn't the ship, it was the figure that emerged from the wreck. She was tall and strong, her glowing blue eyes scanning the area, as if she was searching for something or someone. Jack's breath caught in his throat as their eyes met. There she was, the warrior alien girl, the one who had stolen his heart all those years ago. She was battered, her armor damaged from the crash, but she was alive. And more importantly, she was here, for him. "Jack," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but strong enough to carry through the clearing. Her eyes softened as they locked onto his. Jack took a step forward, disbelief and joy flooding his heart. "You came back," he said, his voice trembling. She nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "For you. I never stopped thinking about you." In that moment, the years of waiting and wondering disappeared. She was back. And this time, nothing would tear them apart. Jack stood there, staring at Lyra. Her presence felt so familiar, yet so distant. The years that had passed since they last saw each other seemed to stretch between them like a long, unspoken gap. She had come back, after all this time. But everything felt different now. He was different. Life had changed him in ways he couldn't fully explain. I don't know what to say," Jack finally muttered, running a hand through his hair. His heart raced, but his mind was in chaos. "You say you never stopped thinking about me, but how can I just forget what happened? Why did you leave me without an explanation? You disappeared without a word, and I thought you were gone for good." Lyra looked at him, her blue eyes full of understanding. She knew the hurt that lingered inside him. She knew the questions he had been asking for years, the nights he spent wondering why she had abandoned him. It tore her apart to see the pain in his eyes, but she knew it was something she would have to face. "I didn't want to leave you, Jack," Lyra said, her voice soft but steady. "I was forced to. My people don't allow relationships like ours. It wasn't just a matter of choice, it was duty. I thought that leaving would be the right thing to do, but I've realized now that it was a mistake. I should have stayed." Jack felt a knot tighten in his chest. Her words made sense, but they didn't heal the wound. The years of silence, of wondering, of living with an empty heart, those couldn't be undone with just a few words. But still, something inside him stirred. The connection they had once shared was still there, deep down, beneath the hurt. It was hard to ignore. He stepped back, shaking his head. "I don't know, Lyra. I don't know if I can just forget all the time I spent thinking you were lost. I spent so many nights thinking about what we could have been. And then you." His voice cracked, and he quickly cleared his throat. "You just vanished, without even a goodbye. I never wanted to hurt you," Lyra whispered, her hand reaching out. But Jack stepped back again, unable to close the gap between them just yet. "I never wanted to leave you with questions, but my duty, it was everything to me. And when I was ordered to leave, I had no choice. You must understand, Jack. I did it for your safety. If I had stayed, you would have been in danger. I couldn't bear the thought of that." Jack's chest tightened. She was right, of course. He had never truly understood the weight of her responsibilities, the weight of being part of a warrior race that didn't allow love to interfere with duty. But in his heart, the pain still lingered, gnawing at him. He took a deep breath, looking at her with a mix of sorrow and longing. "I understand, Lyra. I do. But I don't know if I can just go back to where we left off. Things have changed. I've changed." Her expression softened as she took a cautious step toward him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of the man she had once known. I know you've changed, Jack, but I'm still the same. And I'm here. I've come back for you, no matter the cost. Jack swallowed hard. The weight of the past, of the years without her, was heavy, but the idea of starting over, of facing the unknown together, felt like something worth fighting for. He looked at her, his voice quiet but filled with determination. I don't know what's ahead, but I'm not letting you go again, Lyra. We'll figure this out. And for the first time in years, Jack felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, their story wasn't over after all. The days that followed Lyra's return were filled with tension and uncertainty. Jack and Lyra hid in his small cabin, trying to stay under the radar, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Lyra's people, the powerful warrior race she belonged to, wouldn't let her escape so easily. She had broken their laws, and there would be consequences. Jack knew that, but the idea of losing her again was something he couldn't bear. I don't care about their laws, Lyra, Jack said one evening as they sat by the fire. I don't care about any of that. You're here now, and that's what matters. Lyra looked at him with a sad smile. You don't understand, Jack. My people don't forgive disobedience. They are warriors, and loyalty to them is everything. I didn't just break a rule. I broke their trust. But you came back for me, Jack replied, taking her hand. You chose to be here with me, no matter what. Her grip tightened around his hand. I did, but it won't be long before they find us. And when they do, we'll have to face them. Just as Lyra spoke those words, the peaceful night was shattered by the sound of distant engines. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He stood quickly, rushing to the window, his eyes scanning the darkness. The low hum of spacecraft engines grew louder, and soon bright lights flashed in the distance. They're here, Lyra whispered, her voice low with fear. Jack's pulse quickened. What do? We run, Lyra said, standing up. Now. Without another word, Lyra grabbed her gear, quickly securing her weapons. Jack followed suit, panic rising in his chest. He had never been in a real fight, never had to face down an enemy like Lyra had. But now he had no choice. The sound of the approaching ships grew louder, and soon Jack could see them in the sky, 3 sleek, alien craft, hovering just above the treetops. They were coming for Lyra, and they weren't coming to ask questions. Lyra turned to Jack. You have to leave. Get to the forest. I'll hold them off. No, Jack said, shaking his head. I'm not leaving you. She looked at him, her eyes filled with both fear and determination. You have to survive, Jack. If they catch you, it will be over for both of us. Go, now. For a moment, Jack hesitated. The thought of running away from her, leaving her to face this danger alone, felt impossible. But Lyra was right. She was a warrior, and Jack was just a man. The only way they could both survive was if he stayed hidden. All right, Jack finally said, his voice breaking. But I'm not leaving you for good. I'll be back. Lyra nodded. I'll be here, waiting. With one last glance at her, Jack turned and ran into the woods, his heart heavy with fear. He could hear the ships landing, the sound of boots hitting the ground, and the unmistakable voices of the alien warriors. They were close now. Jack pushed himself harder, fighting through the thick underbrush. But every step felt like it was pulling him further from Lyra. Deep down, he knew he couldn't let her fight alone. But for now, he had no choice. He had to survive, and he had to find a way to save her. Jack ran through the dark forest, branches whipping at his face as he pushed himself forward. His lungs burned, and his legs ached, but he couldn't stop. He had to keep moving. Behind him, he could hear the thudding footsteps of the alien soldiers. They were close, too close. His mind kept racing back to Lyra. He had left her behind, telling himself it was the only way to keep her safe. But every step he took made him feel like he was betraying her. He promised her he would be back, but right now, He had no idea how to make that promise a reality. He stumbled over a tree root and fell hard, scraping his hands against the rough ground. For a moment, he just lay there, catching his breath. He wanted to go back, to fight, to be with her. But he knew that wasn't an option right now. He was no warrior. He was just a man, and if he was caught, Lyra would lose everything. Jack pushed himself to his feet, his body screaming in protest. He glanced over his shoulder one last time, but all he could see was the darkness of the trees. The alien soldiers were still after him, and if they caught him, he knew the consequences would be worse than anything he could imagine. He had to stay hidden. He had to survive. His mind wandered back to Lyra. Even though she had told him to run, he knew she wasn't giving up. The fire in her eyes, the strength she had shown in every moment they had shared. He knew she would fight with everything she had. But he couldn't help but worry. What if it wasn't enough? The thought of losing her again was unbearable. He had already lost so much. The years without her had been like a void. And now, with her standing in front of him once more, he realized just how much he had missed her. Her strength, her courage, her love. It had all been a part of him, even when she wasn't there. Jack paused, leaning against a tree to catch his breath. He looked up at the stars, feeling a sense of loneliness wash over him. He missed her more than he could put into words. But he knew, deep down, that the love they shared was still there. It hadn't gone anywhere. And that gave him hope. It gave him the strength to keep going. In the distance, he could hear the sound of the alien ships. They were circling the area, looking for him. Jack quickly wiped the dirt from his face and set off again, his heart beating faster with each passing second. He couldn't let them find him. Not yet. He had to make it back to Lyra. He had to find a way to end this, to be with her without the fear of their worlds tearing them apart. For the first time in a long time, Jack felt something other than fear. He felt determination. He would survive, and he would return to her, no matter what. The night was still intense as Jack made his way deeper into the woods. He had been running for what felt like hours, his body exhausted, his mind racing. The sounds of the alien ships overhead kept him on edge, every rustle of leaves making him jump. But he knew he couldn't stop now. He had to keep moving, keep hiding. He had to survive, because if he didn't, Lyra would be lost. As Jack continued through the trees, his thoughts drifted to the strange events that had happened over the past few days. Lyra's sudden return, the promise she had made to him, the terrifying sight of her people chasing after her. It was all happening so fast, and Jack couldn't fully wrap his mind around it. He was a simple man, and this world of alien warriors and galactic laws seemed so far out of his reach. Still, he wasn't afraid to fight for Lyra. No matter what, he would protect her. He had to. But then, as he reached a small clearing, he heard a sound behind him, a soft snap of a twig, followed by the faint rustling of leaves. Jack froze. He wasn't alone. Slowly, he turned around, heart pounding in his chest. His eyes scanned the darkness, but all he could see were shadows and the trees swaying in the wind. Still, the feeling of being watched, of being followed, lingered. "Who's there?" Jack called, his voice sharp with caution. A figure stepped forward, emerging from the shadows. It was Greg, an old friend from town, someone Jack had trusted for years. Greg was a big man, strong and tough, but friendly enough. They had shared drinks, stories, and laughs together. Jack thought of him as an ally, someone who had his back. But now, as Greg stepped into the moonlight, something in his eyes looked different. Jack's stomach twisted. "Greg, what are you doing out here? You scared the hell out of me." Greg didn't answer right away. He simply stood there, staring at Jack with an unreadable expression. Then finally, he spoke. "I should have known better than to trust you, Jack." Jack's confusion deepened. What are you talking about?" Greg stepped closer, his face now fully visible in the pale light. There was no warmth in his eyes, no friendship, just cold, hard resolve. I've been working for them, for her people, and I was ordered to keep an eye on you. Jack's heart dropped. Betrayal. His best friend, his trusted ally, had been working with the very people who were hunting Lyra. You've been spying on me. Jack's voice was barely a whisper. The shock was overwhelming. He had always believed in Greg, never once suspecting that his old friend could be a traitor. I didn't have a choice, Greg said, his voice low and defensive. They promised me power, safety. I had to do what they asked, Jack. I never wanted to hurt you. But you are, Jack said, anger rising in his chest. You're helping them hurt her. You're helping them destroy everything I care about. Greg hesitated for a moment, looking conflicted. But then he shook his head. I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't want this. But I've done too much to back out now. Before Jack could respond, the sound of the alien ships grew louder again, and Greg's face hardened. They'll be here any minute. I was just making sure you didn't get away. Jack's mind raced. He had been betrayed. His closest friend was now working for the enemy, and everything was about to come crashing down. But no matter what, Jack knew he couldn't let Greg stop him. He had to get back to Lyra. Greg, Jack said, his voice firm. You can still help me. Help me stop this. It's not too late. Greg's eyes flickered, and for a moment, Jack saw a glimmer of doubt in them. But then Greg looked away, shaking his head. I can't help you, Jack. I'm sorry. Without another word, Greg turned and vanished into the darkness, leaving Jack standing there, alone once again. Jack stood in the clearing, the betrayal of his old friend still fresh in his mind. His heart raced as the sound of alien ships growing louder filled the air. Greg's words echoed in his head. I can't help you, Jack. I'm sorry. Jack's fists clenched, his body trembling with anger and frustration. He had trusted Greg, and now that trust had shattered. But he couldn't dwell on that now. He had to stay focused. Lyra was still out there, and he had promised her he wouldn't leave her again. He wasn't going to let her fight this alone. The forest around him was eerily quiet, save for the occasional rustle of the wind. The ships were closer now, the engines roaring as they circled above. Jack could see the lights of their searchlights cutting through the trees, scanning the area, searching for any sign of Lyra. Jack knew that if he didn't act soon, they would find her. He had to move quickly. With a deep breath, he started running again, pushing himself harder than before, determination fueling every step. As he made his way through the trees, Jack spotted a small clearing ahead. He slowed down, crouching low to avoid being seen. His eyes scanned the area. There was no sign of the alien soldiers yet, but Jack knew they were close. Suddenly, a noise behind him made him spin around. In the distance, he saw a shadow moving fast through the trees. It was Lyra. She was running toward him, her armor battered but her determination stronger than ever. Lyra, Jack called, his voice barely above a whisper. She stopped when she saw him, her blue eyes locking onto his. For a moment, everything else disappeared. In that instant, nothing mattered more than being with her, than knowing they were together again. They're coming, she said, her voice low but steady. We don't have much time. Jack nodded. I know. We have to move fast. We'll fight them together. Lyra gave him a small, appreciative smile, her hand reaching for his. I never thought I would have someone like you by my side, she said, her voice filled with both admiration and affection. But we have to be smart. We can't just rush into a fight we can't win. Jack squeezed her hand. I don't care what we're up against. As long as we're together, we'll figure it out. Just then, the sound of boots crunching on the forest floor reached their ears. Lyra's eyes widened. They're here. We need to go. Now. Without wasting another second, they turned and ran, weaving through the trees, their footsteps almost synchronized. The alien soldiers were close, their searchlights scanning the area with increasing intensity. But Jack and Lyra weren't going to back down. They had fought too hard for this, and no matter what came next, they were going to face it together. As they reached a narrow path through the forest, they suddenly came face to face with the alien soldiers. There were at least a dozen of them, armed and ready. Jack's heart skipped a beat as he realized they had no choice now but to fight. Lyra didn't hesitate. With lightning speed, she drew her weapons and charged toward the soldiers, her strength and skill on full display. Jack followed her, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He wasn't the fighter Lyra was, but he would do whatever it took to protect her. The battle was fierce. The soldiers were strong, but Lyra was faster, more agile, and every strike she landed sent one of them to the ground. Jack fought alongside her, using the environment to his advantage, picking up branches and rocks to defend himself. Together, they fought like a team, their bond making them stronger. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about love, about defying the odds and showing the universe that nothing, not even her own people, could tear them apart. When the last of the soldiers fell, Jack and Lyra stood there, breathing heavily, their bodies bruised and bloodied, but still standing strong. Lyra turned to Jack, her face softening with relief. "We did it," she said, her voice full of emotion. "You're still here. We're still here." Jack smiled, his heart full of pride and love. "We are, and we always will be." In that moment, Jack realized that no matter what came next, he and Lyra could face anything together. The battle was far from over, but they had already won the most important fight, against the fear that had kept them apart for so long. The night was thick with tension as Jack and Lyra made their way deeper into the forest, away from the wreckage of their battle. The faint hum of alien ships still filled the air, echoing through the trees like a distant storm. But Jack wasn't running anymore. This time, he was moving with purpose, determined to take the fight to the aliens, just as Lyra had suggested. They had found a small hidden clearing, a place that Lyra had known about from her time on Earth. It was quiet, far enough from the alien forces, but they couldn't stay there for long. The enemy was too close. They needed to act fast. Lyra paced back and forth, her eyes scanning the horizon. She had always been the calm one, the one who thought ahead. But now, even she seemed restless. She had never imagined that returning to Earth would mean a fight of this scale. She thought she could escape her people's control, but now she knew better. They would not rest until they had brought her back. "I can't keep running, Jack," she said, her voice steady but filled with an edge of frustration. "I'd spent too long hiding. If we're going to make it out of this, we have to find a way to end it. To make peace." Jack watched her, a mixture of admiration and concern in his eyes. Lyra had always been strong, but the weight of everything she had gone through was starting to show. She was exhausted, mentally and physically, and yet she still carried the burden of her people's expectations. "You don't have to do this alone, Lyra," Jack said, stepping closer to her. "I'm with you, no matter what. We'll figure this out together. We've come this far. I believe we can make it to the end." Lyra turned to face him, her gaze softening. She wanted to believe that too. But the reality of the situation was overwhelming. Her people weren't just warriors, they were rulers. And if they decided to make an example of her, there would be no escaping it. But she couldn't live in fear forever. She couldn't let her people decide her fate. "I don't know if there's a way to make them see reason, Jack," she said, her voice quiet. "They're so set in their ways. They believe that no one, not even me, can defy their laws. And if I return, they'll punish me. Worse, they'll punish you." Jack took her hands in his, holding them gently. "We won't let that happen. We'll face them together. Maybe it's time we fight for something else. Something more than just survival." Lyra looked at him, searching his face for any sign of doubt. But there was none. He truly believed they could change things. And in that moment, she realized he was right. They had been fighting for so long, trying to survive. But now, It was time to fight for a future, one where they could be free to love, free to choose their own path. "All right," Lyra said finally, her voice firm. "We'll do it. We'll face them. And we'll show them that we're not just some rules to be followed. We are more than that." They shared a quiet moment, both knowing what was at stake. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about something greater, something that would change the course of everything. Jack stepped back, looking toward the edge of the clearing. "We need to take the fight to them. We need to get to their stronghold and make them listen. If we don't, they'll keep coming. And I won't let that happen." Lyra nodded. "Then let's go. Together." And with that, they both turned toward the path ahead, ready to face whatever challenges came next. They had no illusions that the road would be easy, but they knew they had each other, and that was enough. The early morning sky was painted with shades of pink and orange as Jack and Lyra made their way toward the alien stronghold. The air was thick with anticipation, their every step bringing them closer to a confrontation neither of them fully understood. The battle was no longer just about survival. It was about freedom, love, and a chance for both of them to forge a life without fear. They moved quietly through the dense forest, avoiding the patrols of alien soldiers who still searched for them. The ships in the sky were fewer now, as if they were expecting Jack and Lyra to make a mistake. But Jack was determined. He knew that this would be their final stand. As they neared the stronghold, the towering structure came into view. It was a massive fortress, glowing with strange energy, unlike anything Jack had ever seen. The walls were thick, built to withstand attacks from all sides. But the more Jack looked at it, the more determined he became. He wasn't just going to walk away. This was the time to end it all. "Are you ready?" Jack asked, turning to Lyra. Lyra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at the fortress, her face serious but calm. She had been preparing for this moment for years, knowing that one day she would have to face her people. But now, with Jack by her side, it felt different. It wasn't just her fight. It was theirs. "I'm ready," she said quietly. "But we need to be smart. We don't have the numbers. We need to use what we have." Jack nodded. He knew she was right. They couldn't just charge in and hope for the best. This was about strategy. It was about using their surroundings, their knowledge of the land, and most importantly, their bond. Together, they crept closer to the stronghold, using the cover of the trees to stay hidden. As they neared the entrance, Lyra stopped and signaled for Jack to stay low. The gates were heavily guarded, but there was a small gap in the security. "A way in." "This is our chance," she whispered. They waited for the right moment, watching the guards shift positions. Then, without a sound, they slipped inside the stronghold's perimeter. Jack's heart raced. This was it. They were inside. As they moved deeper into the fortress, Lyra took the lead, her senses sharp. She had been trained to navigate this kind of environment. But Jack wasn't far behind. Together, they managed to avoid detection, moving from one shadow to the next. Eventually, they reached the central chamber, where the leaders of her people would be waiting. The doors were massive, built to intimidate. But Jack felt a surge of confidence. He had Lyra by his side. Together, they were unstoppable. Lyra took a deep breath and turned to Jack. "This is it. Once we go in there, there's no turning back." Jack reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I'm with you. Let's make them see what we're capable of." With that, they pushed the doors open and entered the chamber. The alien leaders turned to face them, surprise flickering across their faces. Lyra stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "I've come to show you that I won't be a part of your system anymore. I found something better. Someone who makes me stronger, who makes me feel free. You can't control me anymore." The room was silent for a long moment. The leaders exchanged looks, clearly unsure of what to do. Lyra's words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of defiance. And then, one by one, the leaders slowly stood up. The silence broke with a low murmur. Jack's heart pounded. He didn't know what would happen next. But in that moment, he realized something. Whether or not they succeeded here, they had already won. They had chosen each other, fought for each other, and nothing would ever take that away. One of the leaders spoke. "You've made your choice, Lyra, and we cannot undo it." Lyra nodded. "Then let's find peace. Let me live the life I've chosen." The tension in the room hung thick for a moment, but then, slowly, the leaders nodded in agreement. The battle was over. It wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for freedom, for love, and for a new beginning. As Jack and Lyra walked out of the stronghold hand in hand, they knew that their journey wasn't over. But for the first time in years, the future seemed full of possibilities.